Good morning. Hello, beautiful souls. Such a great question today. Such a great question. I know. It happens to all of us, including myself. But today's question is asking about imposter syndrome. How many of us have had that moment where we are surrounded by other creatives and all of the confidence that you thought you had, all of the building up of belief in self crumbles so quickly when someone next to you is talented in a way that you wish you were, or you find yourself successful but unable to accept that success. You don't feel you're worthy of it, maybe. So we are going to talk about imposter syndrome today, and we're also going to talk about consistency, because that is something that this beautiful creative soul has also asked us to address. So if you are someone who struggles with feeling like an imposter in creative circles, or you struggle with consistency in your creative projects, stick around. I think you're really going to enjoy this reading. As always, if you're new, welcome. My name is Amanda. I'm the founder of Awaken Creators, and I am here to help you elevate to your divine creative truth so that you can live in joy, release your blocks, and have a beautiful creative journey free of resistance. So with that, let's go ahead and get into the cards already here. Last week, or a couple weeks ago, I started featuring the beta deck for the Awaken Creators Oracle, which I had so beautifully done on these index cards that are extremely hard to shuffle. So I went ahead and I purchased some blank playing cards, which are a lot easier to shuffle, and transferred everything over here. So look at this. Ooh, it's happening, folks. It's happening. I got the whole deck here, all 55 beta cards here. It was a labor of love. It took me about 2 days to get them all transferred over. I probably got a little stoned on the permanent marker fumes, but that's all right. We're here and we're doing this live, and I'm really excited to be using this deck. I may still use the Bob Ross deck because I always have Bob by my side. He really is just such a helpful creative spirit guide to have with you. But I think I'm going to start with this. I'm going to start with the Awaken Creators Oracle deck. And if you're interested, if you didn't hear last time I did this video, this vision is ultimately a collaborative project. I would like to invite and have artists from all styles and walks of life contribute to this deck, rather than just one artist doing the illustrations for all of the cards. So if it sounds like a project that you would be interested in, send me a private message. And we will see if we vibe together, if it's a good fit, if you want to participate. So let's tune in and ask for guidance related to imposter syndrome and related to consistency. Let's talk about imposter syndrome for a second. I mentioned briefly that, I feel like this really has a lot to do with lack of self-worth. But we'll see what the cards have to say. Whoa, that one's flying out. Okay, so there's one. Let's see about maybe three of these babies feels about right for this discussion. That's way too much. That's just bad shuffling, my friends. And I think they're kind of sticking together. So again, it's a work in progress, right? And maybe that's what you need to accept as well if you're dealing with imposter syndrome, that all of your creative journey is a work in progress. There is not necessarily a finish line anywhere. There's not necessarily, a peak that you're supposed to reach. I mean, who wants to reach the peak? Because where do you go from the peak? Down? You know what I mean? So what is the point of peaking? I think there's much more beauty in the journey and accepting the journey and feeling into the journey. And, I'll stop there for just a second because the card that came out is Power and Presence. Okay? Which is one of our flow cards. This is a card of restoration. So, when we're talking about letting go of the idea of the peak and needing to peak in order to feel like you deserve your spot in the crowd, okay? Your power is not at the peak. Your power is in presence. So, again, it's to stop living in the past or the future. When we are so concerned with how we measure up against other creatives, we could be living in both the past and the future. So here's a tip for you, and I think I gave this maybe a couple weeks ago about separating your feelings. Because sometimes when we feel something, it's that we're worried we're going to repeat the past. So for imposter syndrome, perhaps you are feeling the way you felt the first time, you were rejected, either creatively or by a lover or something like that. If you are feeling anxiety and worry that you don't fit in or stack up, then maybe you are, worrying about the future and trying to place yourself in some kind of hierarchy that, doesn't exist. This card also mentions that through presence, we gift ourselves the present of manifesting from a pure-hearted place. So the only real reality is now, right? And so in this now, what is your present now vibrating? Are you vibrating that you fit in, that you're cool, calm, and collected around these folks? Or are you vibrating that you're inadequate, that you are not worthy to be there with them, that, they seem so perfect and you can't possibly be perfect? What you are, what you be in the present is what you send to be manifested in the future. So we want to avoid vibrating imposter because we will just create more situations for ourselves to feel that vibration. And I'll also mention something because I'll tell you a story. So one of the first times I went to a critique circle, this was back when I lived in Oregon, and I went to Portland to this critique circle. And I was so nervous to read my work in front of a table of strangers. This was not something that I had done before. And it ended up being that the person hosting the critique circle or critique table that I was sitting at, after we all, did our critiques and, shared the information, came up to me afterwards and actually asked to mentor me. And I was flabbergasted. I'm confused because I thought, here's this published author. Like, what do they see in me that I didn't see in myself? And when I talked to my dad about it afterwards, which I was so, excited about it and flattered that they had made this offer to mentor me, I still didn't really understand. And my dad told me that greatness recognizes greatness. And I think that when we talk about imposter syndrome and we talk about, feeling uncomfortable surrounded by all these talented people, sometimes you need to just recognize that you're surrounded by all these talented people for purpose and reason. And instead of assuming that you're the odd one out, isn't it just as possible, and I would argue is probable, that you are just as talented and on the level as them? You just can't see it, okay? So be mindful of that if that's something that you are dealing with. So the next card that came out for us is a Divine Flow Major, and this is about fluidity. The fluidity card is a turning point card, and it says release control. You never really had it anyways. Go with the flow. Allow the work to shape you. Move like water. So when we're talking about imposter syndrome, I think it's really important for you to let go of the idea that maybe if you could control how people perceive you, you would fit in, or if you could impress them, maybe then you'll validate yourself. It's not about that. Your job, I think, is to really open yourself up to the possibility that you are exactly where you need to be and allow that experience to shape you. Things are brought up into our awareness not to torture us or scare us, but to help teach us and grow us. But again, we have to be willing to be open to that, okay? So this creator who sent in this question also asked about consistency. And I think that fluidity card applies to that as well, is this idea of, what is consistency is what I would ask. When you say consistency, are you trying to measure yourself up against some standard you read somewhere that says you have to create every day, or X amount of hours means you are successful? I would really start to question those assumptions if you are creating those assumptions and they're making you feel bad. There's boundaries. We're talking about boundaries. We're in Scorpio season right now. And when it comes to this idea of pressuring ourselves to be consistent, boundaries is certainly a topic for discussion, because boundaries are time and space. And if you've not given yourself enough time and space to complete your projects according to your process and your natural flow, you're going to feel inconsistent. So again, I would ask you, what is consistency to you? What measure are you trying to stand up to, and reach? Is it in alignment with your natural flow? Are you really moving fluidly with your own process, or are you trying to force yourself into some predefined box that someone said to do it this way because then you guarantee success? Again, the fluidity card says release control. You don't have it anyways. So if you're trying to be consistent in order to control an outcome, you're going to frustrate yourself creatively, because you are moving against the natural divine flow that wants to come through for you. Wow, so you've got another major here, the doing, and this one is all about foundation building. So this is about going back to basics and realizing that starting at square one is not necessarily a bad thing. That whatever you are building or working on has potential, but it must be founded properly. So again, if we're talking about consistency, I really want to call on you to be more patient with the process, and also to, again, what is consistency to you, and are you building something that's really sustainable? So I would say this, for example, just working through my own business, which is a creative endeavor, by the way. Anytime you are an entrepreneur or trying to build your own business, that is a creative pursuit. And one of the things that, where was I going with this? Spirit, help me. Oh, it was about, again, consistency, and is the work that you are trying to achieve. So say, for example, consistency to you by some standard that you're attached to says that you need to do XYZ 7 days a week. Okay. But when you imagine your future that you're trying to manifest, again, power and presence, is your present vibration manifesting what you truly desire? If your present vibration is overwhelmed, overworking, overburdened, constantly doing too much, feel into that vibration and remember that your present is what you send to be manifested in the future. So if your idea of consistency is vibrating with overwhelm, you will simply manifest more shit to do, more projects that overwhelm you, and, eventually will probably implode because it's unsustainable. So remember that you're always foundation building, okay? Or to whoever asked this question about consistency, you are foundation building right now. I'm speaking directly to you. And Spirit is asking you to remember that and build a foundation that is sustainable, that is in alignment with what you truly desire, but also to remain fluid with the process and allow yourself to, you release what doesn't serve you, move in the direction of what is flowing for you. Do not resist under the illusion that you can control the outcome. Okay. I'm going to get a Bob card. And I'm going to see what Bob has to say about imposter syndrome, and then what Bob has to say about consistency. So let's get one card for each, Mr. Bob Ross. I feel like I probably should have done 2 separate videos for this because it's a lot, but it's good. Yeah, so Bob says it's the 3 of Hearts or the 3 of Cups. It says, we just show you how, but you make the decisions. When you have this much power, you have to make big decisions. So I think, again, this comes to discussing boundaries, and you need to decide how you want to do this thing as it relates to consistency. So if you don't want to have to create every day, then stop creating every day. Stop holding yourself to that standard. Really think about what it is that you wish to manifest, what your creative life looks like, and start trying to be that now every day and be consistent in that, okay? I really think that a lot of times we get so focused on the future outcome, we forget to enjoy the lead up to that, right? And you're supposed to enjoy while you wait to enjoy. It's not supposed to be torture until the final release, and then you feel good. You'll never manifest that feel good if you're constantly vibrating torture in the day-to-day, moment-to-moment. All right, imposter syndrome, Bob. Do you know about that, Bob? He's laughing. He's like, oh yeah. Being on TV is not easy. Being a real artist, what does that mean? Because you draw landscapes and people don't think you're a real artist, or, whatever you do, whatever you create, there's always going to be someone who thinks that's not art. And it doesn't matter. They can think that. And maybe it isn't to them. That doesn't mean it has to be not art to you. All right, Bob. Come on, friend. Let's get it. Ooh, he dropped 2 for our Imposter Syndrome. Let's see. And they're both spades or swords. Look at that. It's all in your mind. It's all in your head. Okay. Okay, so Queen of Spades, it says however you think it should be. That's exactly how it should be. You don't think you fit in? Guess what? You don't. You think you do? Yay, you do. I mean, we like to place all of this importance on our on our mindset, but at the same time, then we like to say we can't control it. Oh, it's out of my hands. My mind just thinks this way. No, you have boundaries. You have the ability to set boundaries even in your own mind against your own thinking. You have the power, Queen of Swords here, to put up the boundary, to use that sword of truth to cut through the bullshit and say, no, actually, you know what? I do belong in this circle. No, actually, you know what? I am just as great as the people surrounding me right now. You know what? Yeah, I am. And anytime a thought comes into my awareness that is not in alignment with that truth, Queen of Swords, I'm going to cut it out. I'm going to tell it, no, you can float around in my head all you want, stupid thought, but I'm not going to attach to you. I choose differently, which is what this card is, the 2 of Spades or the 2 of Swords. This is a choice. What are you going to believe? Every day is a good day when you paint. Look, if you are doing the work, if you're putting in the effort, if you are pursuing your creative journey with all your heart, you are not an imposter. There is nothing fake about you. You are doing exactly what you were placed here on this planet to do, exactly what your heart has been asking you to do. There is no imposterness available. You're not faking anything. So cut that thought out of your mind. Give yourself some boundaries here in your mind, because it has no space. It has no right to be there, because you're doing what you are meant to do. The only time you can be an imposter is when you're not following your heart's truth. When you're not following your truth. Okay, which is what we talk about a lot here on Awaken Creators, is how important and vital it is that you get rid of all of those blocks that are blocking you from your creative truth, and all the things in the past that told you had to be this way or do it that way, or da-da-da-da-da, so you can get to your truth in your heart and do that. If you're doing that, there's no such thing as imposter. You could be surrounded by billionaires. I don't care. I'm doing my truth. I'm walking in my truth. Okay? So, again, I would say that for the majority of the people who are watching this video and who, vibrate in alignment with what Awaken Creator stands for, the imposter thing is bullshit. It's a lie that your mind likes to tell you to keep you out of your power. If, however, you're new to this and you're still trying to find your voice and you feel like an imposter, you may want to pay attention to that, because maybe you are doing something that's out of alignment with you. But I feel like those vibrations are a little bit different. There's a difference between imposter syndrome as you are doing what you're meant to do, but you don't feel like you're worthy or belong, and you're not really interested in that medium or whatever, but you're doing it because someone told you to. Okay, that's a different vibration to me. That's more of like a lying to yourself, not trusting your intuition kind of energy, whereas the other one is more of a self-worth, set boundaries and move on with your life kind of energy. So okay, I'm staring at this other card, and I have to share and just deviate for a minute, because before I came on and I was doing my meditations and prayers this morning, and I pulled this card out. This is from the Archangel Metatron deck by Amanda Ellis. This is a beautiful deck, and I love Amanda Ellis. She's a fantastic channeler, and this priorities card came out, and I was like, yeah, I really feel like I should talk about this, and then I didn't. Until now. I'm talking about it now, okay, so it still counts. But it's called Priorities, and as soon as I saw this, I thought about the Creative Rebirth Chakra Healing Program. And it's not because, of self-promotion purposes, but because we talk about this little pyramid in the opening module. And, how our chakra system kind of works like this, where we have to really build up a nice solid foundation in our root and sacral, before we can move up to the higher chakras. Everybody wants to get to the sexy crown and third eye and, connect with the divine and da-da-da-da-da. But they don't clear out the bullshit blocking them in the root. And look how much more of that there is to get through versus up here. So it's really important, as we're talking about these different creative struggles and, things that blocks we're trying to move through. It's really important that we get to the root of the matter and the heart of the matter. So root and heart, I just said, right? And everything in between. Those lower 4 chakras are really so essential. If you don't get those right, I don't care how wide open your third eye is, you will continue to hit block after block after block because you've not addressed the stuff down below that's continuously pulling you down into 3D reality, into feeling trapped, into feeling like you'll never be successful at this creative thing. We've got to get through and set that foundation up properly, right? Which is what the Awaken Creators Oracle said, foundation building. We've got to get the foundation down correctly, okay? So that we can flow with our fluidity card here, so that we can find our power in the presence and manifest from a place of complete alignment, okay? So if you feel called and you want to start working on this foundational piece here, the Rebirth program will be starting up again early next year. And the wait list is already open now, so you can go and sign yourself up on the wait list so that you find out when it's open and closing so that you can make sure you get signed up. Otherwise, there's a chakra healing guide for creatives, specifically for creatives, in my bio with journal prompts to help you start moving through some of these root and sacral and solar plexus issues. So if your foundation is all out of whack, get down in there, get out your journal, get down in there and start unraveling some things so that you can clear space for that divine flow to come in. Yeah, because Bob's reminding you that you have to make that decision. You have to decide what you are willing and not willing to put up with anymore in your life. Okay. Alrighty, well, I think that's good. It feels good. I hope that to the creative soul who asked this question about imposter syndrome and consistency received something of value today, and that you feel like your question was answered in divine time. Thank you so much for being here, each and every single one of you, for being a part of this community. Again, the Oracle deck, little beta deck that I got transferred over to some playing cards, is pretty much done. I'm just waiting to have some space and time to start collecting interested artists. So if you are interested in taking on one or two cards and creating the art for it, let me know. Send me a private message, and I'm just going to start kind of keeping track of everybody who wants to be involved in the project. And then when I finally have the space and time to do it, maybe late next year, reach out to everyone again and say, hey, if you're still interested, it's go time. So let me know, please. And if you enjoyed this reading, you can always keep flowing, keep building those foundations. And remember, you can't be an imposter when you're doing what you love. Bye-bye.